Washington and Spokane voters are famously independent, voting for the person and not the party. Voters want to know the person behind the policy. Join host Sulani Madsen as she interviews 2016 general election candidates for local, state, and federal office on the experiences that have shaped their lives. The Meet the Candidate series is sponsored as a community service by the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, the Law Office of D.C. Cronin, and We Believe, We Vote. Now, here's your host, Sulani.
Welcome to Meet the Candidate, and my guest for this session is Shar Lichty, who is the candidate for the 6th Legislative District House of Representatives, Position 2. Welcome, Shar.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me and hosting this event.
Glad that you could be here in the office, in the studio with us. So, first question is for you to describe the duties and the responsibilities of the office that you are running for.
Well, as a representative, ultimately you're responsible to your constituents within your district and being able to best represent them as a whole to the degree that you can. And that's through policy change and through budget priorities that reflect their values, the issues that impact their daily lives, to strengthen our communities and our state, and then ultimately our region and our state, so that we can be as thriving as possible for all individuals across that political spectrum. Your duty is to represent everyone. So budget is a big part of that, and passing a budget that works for Washington and is somewhat sustainable.
Okay. Well, thank you for that explanation, Shar. And so everybody brings a different background to the office. And where did you grow up and start your formal education?
I grew up in California, Southern California. I spent some time up before kindergarten going back and forth from Seattle to Southern California when my dad worked either for Boeing or McDonnell Douglas. When I was getting ready to start kindergarten, I was the oldest child. He changed careers so that I didn't have to keep moving through my school year depending on layoffs. And since family was down there, that's where we settled, was there. So I went through school there, and I moved up here to Eastern Washington 21 years ago. Formal education. I went back to school late in life after working 9 years in public education up in Deer Park. I went back to school at 39 and went to SCC first and got my AA transfer degree. And then I went on to Eastern Washington University and got my bachelor's in social work with a minor in Africana studies. And
That's an interesting path to take. I know a lot of people do go back to school at a later time, and sometimes I think they get more out of it than.
Yeah. I think I did get a lot more out of it. When I was at the community college, I was very involved in clubs and on student government, and I took advantage of that whole experience. And then I went to Eastern, and I just focused on my major. But it was a nice experience, and I think I valued it a little bit more than I would have at 18 or 19.
Well, what was one of those club experiences that really stuck in your head?
The most impactful was my involvement in Human Rights Club, and that directly led to me changing my major from special education certificate as an teacher to social work and working on human rights and social justice work. So that's where I am today because of that involvement in that club. So that was the most impactful, and I was the president of that club for 2 years.
Okay. Another area that we all learn something from is our first jobs, the first time we start to connect work and effort with money. What was your first job that you remember?
Well, my first job where I was paid was babysitting in high school. However, my parents wanted to instill good work ethics in us children, and so we had chore charts, and we earned money based on whether or not we did the task that we were called to do, and that money was what we had to budget for going to the movies or going out to eat or hanging out with our friends, going roller skating, whatever it would be. Our parents didn't give us extra money to do that. We had to earn it. So it kind of was instilled into me earlier than that, but my first job would have been babysitting in high school. And then I went on, and my first job after high school was as a server. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people call those their first real job is the one where they get to know about taxes coming out of paychecks.
Oh, yeah.
You can notice that. So
that is a reality check.
Yeah, it is. So when you moved back up here, what was it that drew you back up to the Northwest?
I wanted to have a better quality of life for my children. Growing up in Southern California, watching mass development happen, and it just wasn't the Southern California of my childhood anymore. Mm-hmm. I wanted my kids to be closer to nature, to have those opportunities that I had early in life, on vacations, going camping out to natural parks and stuff like that. Being out in nature. And so we moved up here and we lived in Deer Park and Elk for a while. And then about 12 years ago, I moved into Spokane. Yeah.
Okay. So which neighborhood do you live in now?
I live on the South Hill, up kind of by Moran Prairie.
Okay. A little bit more maybe about travel experiences. Sometimes travel, have you traveled much or?
A little bit, not as much as I'd like. But most summers, when I'm not campaigning, I spend my summers every weekend out somewhere in the lake and kayaking and camping somewhere nearby. We have so many wonderful opportunities here in Eastern Washington and in North Idaho to get away for a weekend and enjoy nature. But I grew up, my parents, their honeymoon was spent camping. They backpacked up Mount Whitney. I spent much of my early life in the backpack on my dad in the parks and stuff like that. So it's a huge part of my life. It's been a significant impact on me.
Well, people can get just as picky about which lake is the lake. Is there a particular lake that you like to go to around here? We have so many.
Yes, we do have so many. My favorite is actually Horseshoe Lake, north of Deer Park.
Oh, okay.
It's just nice and secluded in the mountains, and it's just kind of quiet and serene. I love to get out there with my kayak and just relax.
Okay. So what are the kids up to these days?
My kids are all grown. I have 4 grandkids now. Mm-hmm. So they're all grown and working and, and busy living their own lives. And I spend as much time as I can with them, which is a little difficult when you're campaigning, but yeah.
Is you can get them to come along with you in doorbell.
I know. My oldest granddaughter loves to doorbell. Yeah, she does. She went out with me last year. She absolutely loves it. She doesn't want conversations to be more than about 5 minutes at the door, so sometimes that works out good. She's a little automatic cue. Oma, it's time to go. Next one, yeah.
Oh, so she calls you Oma.
Oma, yeah.
We use that in our family as well.
Oh, nice.
Lets me know there's a little bit of a German background.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Well, to get back a little bit to let me see, formal, informal education. Something that you may have learned from that first real job, the one with the FICA coming out of your paycheck, things that you learned as a server that you've applied in life. Good
customer service, the value of being kind to people and just respecting everyone. And, a server, I kind of think, everyone should do a little bit of time as a server in retail and fast food, and kind of experience that side of it. It takes a lot of patience. Sometimes you sometimes as a server you're getting yelled at, or for things that are not in your control. You're not the one cooking the food and whatnot. So you just learn to take that all with a grain of salt and smile and be kind to everyone. And I mean, that's kind of reflective of how you should be in life. Kindness goes a long way, and respect.
Mm-hmm. So what was it that decided you to turn to being a candidate? Not everybody solves problems by running for office.
No, they don't. So for nearly 7 years now, I've been working as a community organizer. That's what I've used my social work degree for, is to engage with everyday people and community leaders and lawmakers to try and create policy change on the issues that impact the individuals I'm working with. So I've done that for almost 7 years, and I've had some level of frustration with our lobbying activist, experience, and some frustration. And so about 3 years ago, I pondered, maybe I want to try it from the inside. Maybe I want to go and see if I can make more change and better represent the people by holding office. And so here I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to that last wrap-up question. Your opportunity to tell everyone why vote for Shar Lichty for 6th Legislative District House of Representatives.
I believe I am the most qualified person to do the job. My experience as an organizer and as a social worker, I know how to analyze policy. I know how to draft policy. And I know how my best skill is that I know how to bring all the voices to the table and have respectful dialogue. I'm I grew up in a household with a wide range of political views in our household, and we were always allowed to talk and have political discussion during the dinner table. And so what I learned is that we all really have much more in common than we have different, in our opinions. We might just have different ideas at how to get there. And so the most important thing to represent everyone is to have that respectful dialogue with everyone across the aisles and come to common solutions that work for the most. And that's that experience in my personal life and in my career as an organizer. I've worked that way, and that's how I'll work in Olympia to best represent the 6th Legislative District.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Lynette. I'm glad you could come in.
Sure.
Oh.
Meet the Candidate is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. The Meet the Candidate series is sponsored as a community service by the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, the Law Office of D.C. Cronin, and We Believe, We Vote. All Meet the Candidate conversations are posted on our YouTube channel, posted as a podcast on our website, and will be featured in our 24/7 live stream. Find us at SpokaneTalksOnline.com.